Hey guys, just wanted to give a quick disclaimer to the interview that you are about to watch or listen to, depending on if you're on YouTube or podcast. This interview did take place in the Folkvanger village of Midgardsblot, so it is both outside, it's windy, and it's in the middle of where people are camping and working. So there's going to be quite a bit of ambient noise, but I really hope that even if usually you have trouble listening to interviews with ambient noise, you do understand that for me to have had the opportunity to talk to Don Shaw of Inspirational Instruments is actually pretty amazing. I made it very clear at the beginning of this interview that if it was not for the work of people like Don with actually making the instruments that we listen to when we listen to and enjoy Nebala or Wardruna, for instance, we really would not have that music without the people who apply the skills and knowledge, time, and passion to actually learning how to build and keep these instruments running. So I hope that you guys appreciate how incredible of an opportunity it is to hear from Don Shaw, the maker of so many instruments of Nebala, Kjell Braaten, and Wardruna. And I hope that you guys stick around to listen to everything that this guy has to say, because this is a personal favorite interview of mine, as it was a pretty special opportunity to have. So with all that said, I hope you enjoy the show, and just be mindful that at a festival and in the Folkvanger village, there's going to be a little bit of ambient noise, but I really hope that that doesn't get in the way of you appreciating what an awesome occasion this is for the Nordic Sound channel. Isn't that right, Cricket? All right, you guys enjoy watching, and I will stop holding up the show. Take care. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Nordic Sound channel. Today I am humbled in every sense of the word to be joined by Don with Inspirational Instruments. Don, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit? Say hi, where you're from?
Yeah, as I say, my name's Don Shaw, Englishman living in Norway for the last 20 years in August this year, so it's
that
past.
long?
Yeah,
That long?
20 years, yes. 13th of August it was, so that's gone.
And just so everyone can just right out the gate know why I'm so happy to be talking to you right now, would you like to say just what you do, if it's not obvious, and who you do it for?
Yeah, well, the main thing we do is make string instruments, although we are diversified into instruments that are now becoming difficult to get, like the bone flutes, etc. But we make string instruments, and again, we are probably quite honoured that we're starting to supply some of the bigger known bands' instruments.
Yep, and as I said, I know you're a humble guy, but would you like to, would you like to say who you make instruments for?
Okay, the likes of Wardruna, Einar Selvik, and more recently Nebala. And I provided instruments for the previous member of Skald that had obviously been playing yesterday here.
Yep. They put on an incredible show.
Yeah, to name but a few. And
yeah, just a few.
There's a few of the bigger bands this week literally bought an instrument, and it's being played on stage in 2 tracks within 2 hours, which I was a little bit shocked and honoured.
Yeah, how does that feel?
It was a little bit like I made a set of drums for Nebala, and I played them on the opening concert on Wednesday night. And, I was in there in the hall, really sort of quite proud of myself, and I had very little alcohol, but I was flying as high as a kite. I felt really quite, and not just the drums. I was proud of the drums, but the drummer, what he did with those drums, I was thinking, my God, this guy's good.
Yeah.
He was just absolutely, and I was thinking, oh, is this real? Pinch? Is this real?
Beautiful.
And,
Yeah.
So
I just want to say my piece real quick is I kind of mentioned this to you yesterday. Is with most kinds of music, it's as simple as I want this instrument. I'm going to go to Guitar Center and get a guitar, or some other instrument store, or maybe shop in town. In Colorado we have a big bluegrass scene, so we have a store specializing in guitars and banjos and stuff like that. But again, it's as easy as walk into a store or Google a nearby store for it. With this music scene,
Yeah.
it is really and I will argue this until I'm blue in the face, it is the instrument makers like yourself with this really specialized knowledge that allow this music scene to even exist. Because you cannot walk into a guitar center and get a Trossingen-Leer, a Kravik-Leer, a Talharpa. At least not yet.
No.
But so
things may change, but not at the moment. It's not easy.
Yeah, not to give them any ideas, right? But you know, this music requires instruments that require a very specialized skill set, and I think that's one of the more unique parts of this music. And so again, that's just my piece. Is I do think that the work that you and Lasse over there do are pretty foundational to even allowing us to enjoy the music that we have here at Midgårdsblod. And so that's why I'm honestly just very honored to be able to have you tell your story here.
Yeah, now I'm embarrassed.
And speaking of telling your story, I would love to hear how you got into such a niche craft.
Yeah, well, obviously I came into the sort of Viking, I'll call it living history.
Okay, cool.
I tend to stay away from reenactment because I've experienced living history groups before, like for the First World War.
Yeah.
You can't reenact a war like
right.
that. But you can actually try and breathe a little bit of history and a bit of show how
Life.
it might have been, life, everything else. So I stick with this living history thing. So in the sort of Viking scene and at a camp one night, beautiful camp, you know, normal evenings when the public have gone, people are cooking, smoke around, you know, talking, singing. And my friend came with this beautiful Trossingen lyre.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful, carved like the original. And he said, could you possibly just take care of this while I put my children to sleep to bed?
Okay.
Okay, I can do that. And I was looking at that, it's a beautiful carving of these, you know, the shields and spears and everything. And I thought I'd just have a little pluck. I mean, I play guitar a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But I thought I'll have a little pluck. And all of a sudden I thought, oh. And it was like random strings sounded absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
6 strings, 6 notes, what can go wrong? And I thought, you know, I'm going to have one of these because it's so much easier than a guitar or anything else that's got strings. So I went home a few weeks later, did a little research. I thought, oh, these are expensive. Oh, maybe not. It's much cheaper for a guitar.
Yeah. And about what year is this that you're?
Oh, this is probably it's before COVID. That might date it a little bit. I will go back.
The before times.
Let's say around 7 years.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I just wanted to put a time frame on.
Not so long ago. So in the end, I did a little research and found a chap on internet, which a lot of people will probably come across. Michael King, based in England.
Yep, I've heard
He's
of
been
him.
making instruments for quite a while now. And he's a very good guy. He's not got any problems sharing.
Yeah.
So if you've got a problem, even though he's selling instruments, he will help. And I won't advertise, but on a certain website, you can go on there and he will sell a CD.
Yeah.
With plans.
I mean, you can advertise. You promote.
Etsy.
Yeah. Okay.
So you go onto Etsy on Michael J. King, and basically there'll be a CD on there with I think about 13 historical instruments. So I thought,
so cool.
That's it's around I don't know, 300 krona, $30 that'd be. Yeah, I'll buy it and just have a look. And I bought it and looked, and I made myself the Sutton Hoo.
Okay.
My first ever one. It was a little bit of a challenge because I have no woodworking background whatsoever. I think I made maybe, I don't know.
I assume you had some.
I think I remember doing something at school, maybe a bookshelf.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's just been like DIY bodge jobs around the farm that I used to have and things like this.
Okay.
Building little woodshed, just simple things. So I did it and used some very basic tools, and it actually turned out okay.
Yeah.
It looked okay, it sounded okay. So then I made my second one, which was a Trossingen. Okay. And then started to circulate a bit more in the markets and playing. Oh, where'd you get that from? I made it. Could you give me one? Well, I can't promise it'll be what you want, but I'm willing to give it a go. Yep. And it just started to roll a little bit like this. So I fell in love with eBay and YouTube, which taught me a hell of a lot about working with wood. Not the best quality, but you get what you pay for.
Yeah, and you got to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I just started making things. And it was a case of if I saw something I like, I would at least try, with no knowledge whatsoever.
Yeah.
So yeah, for example, the Mongolian horsehead fiddle.
Yep.
I absolutely love that instrument and the throat singing with it, and so I made one.
Yep.
I've still got it. I've kept on to that one. So it's anything I'm willing to have a go, because I learnt very quickly, and people explained to me there's no such thing as a failure, because
Yeah.
even in a failure you learn something. It might be don't do that again, or it might be do it differently.
Yeah.
I normally do it differently and don't do it again, especially when it comes to injuries.
Yep.
I've got a few, we're cutting towards it with a sharp Japanese razor saw and thinking, okay, I better put stitches in that.
I used to be a butcher,
Oh, yeah,
and so
yeah, yeah.
very sharp knife. I almost trigger warning if anyone is really easy to puke. I was just cutting steaks and with this giant curved, and I almost cut off the whole top half of my thumb. It went half. Look, again, sorry, graphic. The bone stopped it, which was a good thing. But sorry.
I'll have a drink of water. That's why I always say that a lot of blood, sweat and tears going through my instruments, because literally there's DNA in there.
Emphasis on the blood. Yeah.
Maybe internally, I've got some blood internally, but externally we sand it off.
Yeah, right.
My maker's mark.
So you get started. You teach yourself. You have this beautiful lesson in here that even if you start off bad, it's better to start it all.
Yeah,
you know?
you've got to pursue it.
Yeah,
and try again and slowly get better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm probably right in saying, if my memory serves me correctly, it's meeting up with Kjell Braaten, who your viewers will definitely know.
Yep. Oh yes,
he's been with you a few
Kjell,
times.
Yeah.
Connected with Kjell and started doing a few repairs on his instruments, and before long I was starting to make for Kjell.
Yep.
So a lot of repairs in the first instance, and then he trusted me to make some.
Yeah.
And then because of Kjell's networking system, he just started to roll and roll.
He knows everything.
Yeah. So that was sort of going to the first few years, and then what happened then is I started with an illness.
Okay. Yes.
And so I had to leave work, full-time employment. And so, I mean, for me, it gave me more time, but it also gave me some focus, because I've always been a very active person in life, in both job and, career job and outdoor pursuits, climbing, skiing.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to have horses, train.
Yep.
I used to be a trainer for a while.
Oh,
Trained
cool.
horses, that sort of thing. Hurts. The injury, not the injuries, but the consequences of what they found in my brain, and
Right.
removing it, sort of thing. So it gave me a real focus. Otherwise, I think I would have faded away into nothingness and never been seen again.
Well, I'm glad that didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly. So it gave me a lot of focus, and and basically then I started making a few more. But because of the illness and not being able to do it full time, I decided not going to advertise. You can't find a web shop, you can't find me on Etsy. It's just basically a few photographs on Facebook and Instagram, and it's now word of mouth by the people that I'm providing instruments for.
Oh, am I ruining that?
No, no. You might be pushing that a bit further, pushing the envelope.
But I think that what you do and the reason why you do it and the circumstances around why you do it leads to a perfect example of quality over quantity.
Yeah, well, I would say that bit. My way of doing things, and thankfully the people want to buy from us, and I include that with my, not quite an apprentice anymore. That's never done. But we tend to
That's
like...
quite a promotion, apprentice to stepdaughter.
Well, it was one before the other.
Okay, right, okay.
But now they're sort of,
No, she's happy.
You're allowed to laugh, Jordan. I sort of decided I wanted to make instruments that were well finished, sounded hopefully good, but looked like they've been looked after really well for maybe 100 years or more.
Yeah. Cool.
So
you nail that.
So people expect that they're going to see a little knock on it, but over that knock is highly polished.
Yeah.
There might be a little bit of a scratch. I'm showing these, but these are actually not mine. These are
Okay.
my daughter's. But if there's a little dint in it, you accidentally dropped it on the workshop.
Yep.
I personally don't stress. I know somebody does. I don't stress about sanding it out and taking another 5 millimeters away. I just clean it, make sure that surface is really nice, and then do the finish, the oil and the wax.
Yeah, yeah.
and it looks like, yeah, okay, somebody dropped this 50 years ago, but they've looked after it since, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I prefer that, and it gives more character.
It definitely
You know,
does.
because you go to, let's choose violins.
Yep.
Because they're always nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They look cool. They are cool.
Yeah, yeah.
But you have a line of them hung up on the wall in the music shop, and they all look the same.
Yep.
They're all identically same. The colouring, the finish, everything is the same. And that's not character.
Yeah.
I like people to fall in love with what they bought.
Yep.
And find it difficult to sell it on.
Yep.
So that's my style of doing things. Bit more
love it.
organic, bit more character.
So, what is... This might be like asking you who your favorite child is, but do you have a particular favorite instrument that you've had the experience of make? I have a feeling you know the answer to this, but I would like a particular favorite experience of working with a new instrument or something.
I mean, my favourite instrument has to be my Kravik that I made for myself. I made it in 2019. I know that because it's got a label inside. Otherwise, I've lost count of what I've done now. So that's I can't part with that. It's not old enough as a child yet to let it move on.
Yeah, it's not ready to go off to college.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I must admit, the biggest challenge I've had and the most exciting work I've done is actually, and I hope you don't mind me saying, for Einar Selvig.
Yep. I don't mind at all.
He wanted, well, I'm thinking more Einar, sorry. He wanted me to make him an organistrum.
Yes.
Which is, for the people that don't know, it's an 11th century, very early, sort of pre-hurdy-gurdy.
If you were to take a hurdy-gurdy and pump it up.
Pump it up, make it this big. And in the early stages, 11th, 12th, 13th century, they were played by two people.
Yep, one on this, one with
one
the crank.
Person just cranking, like you're turning over one of those music machines, you know. Yeah. And the other was literally pulling up pegs. Because the pegs were inside the box and with a little tangent that would touch the string. So they had to have two people so he could go, you know, quickly pulling these pegs up. So...
It's a festivals. It's fine.
So it was very specific. It couldn't be played by two people.
Yep.
So that's one cross on the list. And then also he wanted it to be played by one person, and it had to be transportable because obviously, hopefully, I'm crossing my both fingers, it'll go on tour at some point.
Yep.
It needs to be tour ready.
Yep.
So can you do it guitar size? Can you make it rustic and like the original? But can it be played by one person?
Yep.
Yeah, I can do all that.
I think.
And then you sit down and say, okay, where do I start? And I'd worked on one before that belongs to Kjell Braaten.
Yep.
He bought it from somebody else and it needed months of work to get it to actually make a sound.
Right.
We conquered that problem. So I had a little bit of understanding. But the specifics that I got from Einar were a bit more okay.
Yeah.
So then you start doing your research. You Google it, and all you find is a stone carving in a Spanish cathedral. So, tried to do my research. The only thing I found was a few pictures. Some were computer generated, you know, for various things, and the stone carving, of which the famous one is this Spanish cathedral portal. So then I found another really fun YouTube video with a guy with an organistrum playing Black Sabbath, which was really, and I thought, that's sort of what I'd like to make.
I love that heavy metal is always somehow involved.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, with an organistrum, it's either that or a funeral. It's, you know, it's pretty gnarly. So I managed to track down, after a lot of research, the guy that made that one. And it was a German hurdy-gurdy player. I forget his name now. I'm linked on Facebook. He's probably in his 80s at least.
Okay.
Contacted him. Didn't speak English, so I got a German friend to do a letter and explaining what the situation was. He said, well, I'll try and help you. I'll send some photographs. Oh, great. So one photograph was him stood up on a 50-foot long fire ladder on the portal of the cathedral, making a drawing of the carving.
Yeah.
Well, that's helpful, thank you. Yeah. Nice picture. And then the other was a picture of the finished item. Couldn't even tell me string lengths, anything, because he didn't make a plan.
Yep.
So then I had to go through the process of making some sort of prototype. So I made a prototype and I went very easily, used the guitar body and extras and worked out how the mechanism would work, what string length it would have to be for a guitar size.
Yep.
And to some extent that made it easy for me, because when you've got a guitar size long neck on an organistrum, you then actually can take the distances between the frets for where you're going to put your keys.
Yeah.
So in a way, it helped me.
Cool.
If
Good.
it'd been longer, I would have.
Well,
a bit more
Bob
work.
Ross would call that a happy little accident.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I just made sure it was
Yep.
guitar length. So the string length overall is guitar string length from nut to bridge.
Yeah, yeah.
So that made things okay. So it's a lot of trial and error, a lot of wood being put in the fire. I eventually came up with a prototype, which actually I brought this weekend, and it's now sold on to Frigg's daughter.
Really?
Yeah,
Awesome.
they'll be used it yesterday, which I missed because I was so busy here.
Yep.
But they're playing again today, so
No,
I need videos.
I love them. I
Yeah.
hope you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I made last year. I met them for the first time and made a Sutton Hoo for one of the members.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I was pleased with that because it's no longer collecting dust, although I did like it.
Yeah. Bittersweet to let go of it. Yeah.
Especially when you, because I had a microphone inside, so you can plug it into an amp.
Oh,
And
nice.
it's
Yeah,
full
yeah.
of reverb.
Because everyone in this music scene, we love our reverb.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So that put me on the course to making this organistrum, and I finally finished it. We did a lot of talking between us, how he wanted it, what he wanted, what colour, everything else. And I went backstage to deliver it, and it was a little bit daunting, a bit scary. I mean, I've met him
yeah, I
before
can
and
imagine.
we've spoken, but it went into the backstage area where the food tables, and people are putting the makeup on, and suddenly it was like bees round honey. Yeah. I mean, you and my daughter was with me, and we thought, oh God, let's stand back and let them. And they're like, oh, what's this doing?
That's a
Anyway, he
beautiful,
loved
that's a
it.
beautiful
Yeah.
image. Bees to honey.
So I could see by his face I'd hit the nail on the head, and he said, "This has got potential, but not tonight." So I got a very nice picture, but people
Awesome.
can't sure find on the internet.
Beautiful.
So that was, yeah,
Yeah. And I really hope through telling that story, people just appreciate a little bit more
yeah. Well,
the instruments they see up on the stage, because that's a blood, sweat, tears, and a lot of heart too.
yeah, because people have strange requests,
Yep.
and I've had some this weekend, and I need to think about it. So
I guess the last question I have for you is something we talked about a little bit.
yeah.
For people who would like to get into this craft, this obsession, whatever you would like to call it, for people who see what you do and think, I really wish I could do that, but I don't do any woodworking,
No.
right?
Yeah.
What would you tell someone who sees what you do or what Lawson does and would love to get into making these kinds of instruments?
I think it's a good question, and I'm kind of glad you had asked it, because it's something I've been battling with for a while. Because I've the last few years, especially at Midgard's Block, which is like my week of the year now.
Yep.
It's like, oh God, it's another year to wait. It's amazing people, amazing place. I just love it to bits. But since we came to Midgard's Block, I'm allowed to swear.
Yeah.
Last year, it was like second day, and we're looking at each other saying, "What the fuck is happening? What on hell is what can have we opened here?"
Yeah.
And it was like we'd not had that exposure before. There's no advertising and things. And I sort of struggle because people contact me and say, "Oh, such and such, yeah, it's good to be able to that a master's sharing information." I'm going, "Yeah, okay, thanks for your, you know." And then people coming up and saying, introduce me as the music instrument master and things like this. And I've been battling with it because I'm thinking, I wouldn't say it was being embarrassing, but I most didn't want to admit how long I'd been doing it. So I started thinking about it and looking back to my beginnings and going to a campsite, picking up an instrument and thinking, I love this, I need one.
Yep.
And that's where I coined this name, Inspirational Instruments.
Yep.
Because I was inspired to actually make my first, and then found that people having access to those were inspiring. And the fact, to be honest, a lyre of any description, if you can tune a lyre, it it's going to sound beautiful in anybody's hands. If you're a guitar player, you know, it's just like, oh gosh, you know,
what's gonna happen?
yeah, you're so good.
You know, we've all been
Yeah.
to the bar on open mic nights. We know.
Yeah. So, you know, they get straight away, but I promise them, look, have you played an instrument before? No. Okay, this is in tune. Sit there. 5 minutes of time, you'll be so competent, it'll be unbelievable.
Yep.
And and I went, no, sit with it, I'll leave it, I'll go away, and they come back and can see on their faces, they're playing tunes, just random melodies that they've never played before.
Yep. I've been walking by all weekend, as you know, and I see people doing that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll walk by and I'll hear someone go, "Oh, I don't play." I'll be walking this way, and then by the time I'm walking this way, they're sitting there playing something,
Yeah,
and they're
exactly.
really into it.
Exactly.
So yeah, I've seen firsthand what you're talking
So
about.
it's that inspiring people is a really nice thing. But as I say, I'm dwelling on this thing about, you know, what sort of name we're getting for ourselves.
Yep.
And I come to the conclusion, now sometimes you've got to just be clean and just say, no, how can you inspire if you're keeping a secret? Because I honestly have no background in, a little bit arty-farty,
Yeah.
paint, things like this, but no background in woodworking, certainly not in cabinet making. So it's all been trial and error and not giving up.
Yep.
And again, using eBay, because there's some really good tools that you can buy for violin making. They're absolutely perfect for this sort of work.
Yep.
And pick up cheap tools, make your first instrument, maybe sell it to a friend for a few $100s, a few thousand kroner.
Yep. Let it be hideous.
Then
and let it be hideous.
increase your number of quality tools.
Yep.
And build it up. And you find with that knowledge and a little bit better quality and a sharper chisel, learn how to sharpen. Realising I never realised that you actually buy a chisel from a shop
Yeah.
and it's only fracture sharp. It's no good whatsoever.
Right.
You can't even cut your finger on it.
Yep.
So you really
Or else the store will get in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So quite honestly, I'm really proud of myself for
As you should
providing instruments for the people I'm providing for now. Hopefully that'll continue to grow and get better. But I just need to instill in people that it's not beyond reach.
Right.
Not beyond reach for anybody. And hopefully people that know me history, my background in terms of making things, know that I'm not bluffing when it comes to say I knew bugger all about instrument making when I started.
Yeah, and that was just 7 years ago, yeah?
Well, 7 years ago, in like
Yep.
5 years when I started thinking, okay, I'll start making a few more. But I can't, as I said earlier, and we won't dwell because it's a boring subject, but health reasons I can't work full time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go out and do an hour one day, nothing the next day, 5 hours, 6 hours next day, and then regret it for 2 days after.
I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I don't have a health condition, and that's how I work.
All right, that's fine. In that case,
And I have that coveted youthful energy
Yeah.
everyone's telling me I'm supposed to have.
I suppose I'm a happy pensioner.
Good.
Although I'm a
I
very
hope-
young,
I hope to
I'm a
be
very
one.
young pensioner.
I hope
but-
to be a happy pensioner someday.
Yeah, I'm never bored.
Good. Yeah, and so something of what you're saying, some of the best advice I was ever given was, for instance, if you go, oh, but it'll take me 5 years, for instance,
Yeah.
just as an example, it'll take me 5 years to do that well. Well, it'll be 5 years from now eventually anyway.
Yeah.
Would you rather be, so if you're 25, right, you're going to be 30 eventually. Would you like to be 30 with the skill you want to have?
Yeah.
Or would you rather be 30 without the skill,
Without the skill.
that you wish you had?
Yeah.
Because it's going to be 5 years from now anyway. So
exactly.
you might as well spend that time
I
doing
mean,
what
there
you
are
love.
instruments out there. You've only got to Google, put the word harp in, and there's so many different sorts of harp.
Yep.
Which, to be honest, all you need to do if you want to start experimenting and having fun is get a wooden bowl, buy a set of harp strings, the steel ones from eBay, and stick a few nails in and some guitar tuners, and pling and plong it, and it'll work.
Yeah, and
You
even
can do it at factories.
everything you just said can be bought from a thrift shop, right?
Yeah,
You go
exactly.
into, if you're in the States, you go to a Goodwill, you find a wooden bowl, right? You go find some used guitar that someone
Used
got for
guitar
their
string,
kid
exactly.
that they are selling, take the pegs off of it, and then get guitar strings, and suddenly you just, maybe for under $50, just got started instrument making.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And there are lots of interesting instruments out there, from other, say Eastern countries that are very, especially China, very, very simple. Maybe only 2 strings,
Yep.
but you're still able to change notes and play.
Oh, yeah.
it. So it's get out there and thrift stores, definitely.
Yep.
And good wood, whatever it looks like, take it home.
Yep.
I don't throw anything away.
Good.
I salvage any wood I see that's got potential.
Awesome.
I'll take it, and maybe 3 years later, I think, I know what I've got. So,
Well, Don, I'm really humbled that you have trusted me as a platform to tell your story.
I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
It's, like I say, I'm out of the toolbox now. So
Well,
people know. I've
yep.
only been doing it 5 years, but I hope that's an encouragement to people.
It should be. Yep.
Some people might think, oh, well, yeah, what, what a fake. Oh, not a
No,
fake, but whatever this term was.
They probably think you're still hiding something.
Yeah. Well,
But you're. I know you're not. Yeah.
I'm definitely not. No.
Yeah. But Don, thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed.
It was an honor to talk to you.
Yeah.